Dirk Miller, Head of Real Estate Solutions at CoreLogic, is my next guest on the One-on-One series. And I think you're going to find it absolutely fascinating, and there's going to be some things in there that you can learn to improve your business. Stay with me. PropTech has really exploded over recent times. How much influence or what effect has all the lockdowns had on that, do you think?
Paul, it's a really interesting question. I think in some degree, some aspects of the PropTech space have really accelerated because of that. So you've got your open for negotiation, you've got your props, you've got your bid management. That really exploded. In some other sort of PropTech, such as Pleasel, you had an opportunity to show open for inspections, and they exploded. But what we've sort of actually seen since we've sort of opened up is actually some of those have actually sort of gone down. They haven't got the penetration as what they once had. But now other sort of digitization products are actually sort of coming to the front. So it's a real mix of some products have done well, some products haven't. And then the key to going forward now is actually around how do you integrate that product into your workflow? So the people that did that well during their lockdowns, they've done, they're starting to do extremely well now. The people that didn't really onboard and activate those particular products, you're probably starting to wonder what are they doing in that particular product at the moment. So it's probably a tale of two scenarios, Paul, to be honest.
So with so much choice out there for agents, I'm sure it's very confusing. And you said that they stopped using one thing and take something else. Is that their process of trying to work out what's the best product for them at that time?
Yeah,
do you think?
I couldn't agree more. I think one thing with PropTechs and real estate agents especially is they're quite easy to sell to. In a sense, they love that new shiny toy. So they see something that their competitors are doing, they're like, great, I've got to go and grab that straight away. So they don't often think about, well, how am I actually going to bring this product or solution into my business? How am I going to onboard my salespeople? How am I going to onboard my operationals team to make sure to get the most out of the product? And then, such as a downturn that we're sort of starting to experience across the broader economy, yes. People start to question, why am I paying for this particular subscription? So the PropTechs that have done well in terms of integrating that solution, all right, they have a key value proposition, they know which part of the market they're going after, and they've really onboarded those particular customers. Those people are probably going to do really well moving forward, whereas some of the other ones that probably didn't focus on training as much, you may see that they may start to lose or increase their churn over the next 12 to 18 months.
Back in the old days, pre-PropTech, if you weren't getting a result, you'd forgotten to do your door knocking, or you'd forgotten to do one of your prospecting things that you've got to do religiously. So is it like a two-edged sword when you've got agents looking for new things all the time, that they don't stick with something that actually does work, and they think, oh no, I want the next thing, I want the next thing, I want the next thing. Is that a real thing or not?
I agree, Paul. There's no shortcuts. Okay, so technology is an enabler. It's not the solution. Okay, so you've always got to think, just because you have a bit of technology or you buy something, it solves one problem, but then you've got to manage something else. Okay, so let's take Reader. We bought Reader at the back end of last year. It's a fantastic product. It helps you with your prospecting, surface up who to call, but it doesn't make the call for you. Okay, so you still need to make that phone call. You still need to do something, and you still need to be collecting the data. So and I think that's what these good PropTechs are doing, is understanding where they fit, they're onboarding, and then they're sort of getting back in there and making sure that people are embedding it in their operations every day. So 100% two-edged sword, and to a degree, you still got to prospect.
We've been talking pretty generally about the industry, but whilst you've got the opportunity, can you really identify something that agents are clearly overlooking perhaps, or not utilising, that's in your suite of services that would really help them?
The two products that are probably the most interesting and for CoreLogic at the moment is probably focusing on that prospecting space. Okay, so agents prospect, list, and sell. That's what they got to do. They don't all love the prospecting.
But it starts with prospecting,
all
doesn't
starts
it?
with
I
prospecting.
mean, you haven't got the rest of it unless you're doing the prospecting.
100%.
So this is the most important part, really. When you well, I'm not talking about the client care. I'm just talking about for an agent to maximise their opportunities.
Yeah, like a lot of agents when they're starting out, they look to sort of the big operators, okay, and they've been very successful with, and they've got a network, right? So their prospecting is very different to what your prospecting has to be when you're starting out. So there's a lead generation tool, and it's fully branded to our customers. So it sits on your website. It's an
Is
easy.
it called anything in particular?
Well, what's your property worth is probably something that resonates with the industry.
What's your property worth?
Or resonates with consumers. So it sits on your website. Type in a search box. You get an instant valuation on what the property is worth. The next step in that is to identify where they are in their property journey. Okay, so they could have just come to an open on the weekend. Well, they're probably interested in buying. Or how do we match that data with what's in our CRM to identify is the property that they just looked at, are they the owner? Okay, and if they're owner and they're looking at it and saying, well, what's the value of this particular property? They're probably make an assumption they're probably looking to list at some particular point, and they're doing their research. Okay, so moving in the second part, a product which I think is underutilized is how can you, at scale, have more conversations with consumers? Okay, so the lead generation, what's your property worth, gets you access to more consumers, and then a product like Reader, which is it's an intelligent robot that sort of, it's your digital assistant as a real estate agent. It goes out, finds the best people to have a conversation with in your database, and then has a conversation for you. So that two-way SMS, and it's the ability for a reader to ask these questions, which real estate agents don't really go and ask. And the easiest one that we're sort of trained in the industry, or make sure you ask about their finance, or make sure you ask, or you do your follow up at your open home. And it's an alarming amount of things or amount of times that people just don't ask the question.
They just forget or feel awkward.
But Reader,
she just does it automatically.
She just asks the question.
Do we call her a she?
Yeah, she is a she. She's a she.
She's a she.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Okay, now the next question, I don't know if you'll be able to answer this, Dirk, and you haven't got a crystal ball, but the last 5 to 10 years, well, if you go back 5 or 10 years is what I meant, and look forward, you could never have predicted what we've got in front of us now by way of prop tech and other tools in that space. So, without the crystal ball, as I said, can you predict at all what you think's coming for us in ways? The next thing.
Yeah, I think
You can.
No, I can't. To be honest, I can't. There's no way. But
Best guess.
I think we can look to the US. We can look to other industries, which is sort of what we sort of generally do internally.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, what is happening and what are the new things that are coming out of marketing globally.
Yeah.
Okay. Fundamentally, we still need to market our services, and then we need to sell our service. Okay. So selling and marketing, they're not going away. Everyone's in sales, everyone's in marketing. There's that old cliche saying.
Yeah.
So interested in that space. The more data points now. So what is happening in data unification, data simplification? What are the technology trends that are happening there? Combine that with the marketing trends, and then you talked about before around CRMs. You talked about, probably a good operator is probably using 30% of their CRM. How do we simplify that? How do we make it so, lead management or sales management? Sales automation was a big buzzword recently. Marketing automation is still popular. Those are the particular trends that we probably haven't nailed necessarily in real estate in Australia. And don't get me wrong, I think we've got some lovely marketing automation systems. I think ActivePipe's lovely. I think Reader's fantastic. They are automations in that space. But how do you bring everything together? Because a lot of the prop techs they're siloed.
Instead of being interactive.
Correct. So even with Rita, for instance, she creates more data. All right, that data is not going back into your CRM all the time. Okay, so if you're an agent and you're always in your CRM, well, you're still missing data points. You're still missing opportunities. So I think that is going to be a trend that we're going to see, and that's already started in other industries. I think in retail that's very popular at the moment.
Okay.
So I think that's probably in that direction. No crystal ball, but
No.
that's sort of where
Best
I'd be
guess.
hedging my bets. Yes. Yeah.
Dirk, thanks so much. It's so interesting talking to you. You know, for us average agents, you know, we don't think in the realms that you think, and so it's a real insight into what's available out there and what might be coming as well. So I really thank you for coming in and talking to us today.
Pleasure, Paul.
Lovely.
You're definitely
All the
not an
very
average
best.
agent, so but been fantastic to be here.
Thank you, mate.
Thanks.